9B to be item 8A, and item 8A becomes item 8B. And so when we get to the nines, we won't have a B. So, all righty. Okay, that takes us on to item 4.1, presentations. Chief Graham, Fire Department Member Recognition. And I hope, we're going to take photo afterwards, I understand. I hope your firefighters will hang out and get in the photo if they want.
Part of them will.
Okay.
Part of them are about to leave. Mayor, Council, good evening. I know we've got an arduous agenda this evening, so I truly appreciate the opportunity and the few minutes on the agenda to make an important recognition this evening. Firefighters in general do not like to be in the spotlight. They don't like to be recognized. The gentleman we're going to recognize tonight is no different, but we're going to make a go at it and recognize him. The first thing I want to do is read the award that he'll be receiving and the recognition that we're giving, and then I'll read the narrative as to why we're awarding him. Tonight we'll be awarding the Distinguished Service Award. A Distinguished Service Award will be awarded to a member who goes above and beyond the call of duty by illustrating great dedication, initiative, and superior capabilities. The ribbon and commendation bar will be in the colors of red and white and will be displayed as red, white, red, which signify the following: red for bravery and courage, white for faith and purity. The Distinguished Service Award will be given at the discretion of the fire chief. And that's straight out of our standard operating procedure manual. And tonight I will choose to exercise that discretion to make this award. On June 16th, 2024, in the area of Larkspur, Colorado, and while traveling off-duty with his family on I-25, our firefighter paramedic, Andy White, witnessed a small plane crash into a nearby creek. Without hesitation, he immediately stopped, scaled a wildlife fence, which I would have liked to seen. If I could have seen any part of this, that's the part I would have liked to seen. Scaled a wildlife fence and entered the water to assist the occupants of the plane. Despite the dangers of potential drowning and becoming contaminated from the fuel from the airplane, Andy exhibited exceptional behavior by entering the wreckage and providing critical care to the injured individuals. His swift, decisive actions were pivotal in saving lives, and first responders on the scene commended his efforts. They acknowledged that the pilot's chances of survival would have been significantly diminished had Andy not acted with such urgency. In addition to his expertise as a professional pilot, Andy is a highly skilled caregiver and an invaluable mentor to the department. He is an exemplary employee of the city, demonstrating the qualities of courage, compassion, and professionalism. Andy's the type of person that any of us would want by our side in a crisis, and his actions speak volumes about his character. And this is a phenomenal story. It's not my story to tell, but there's so many details about this incident that aren't included in this narrative. But it turns out Andy actually knew both pilots that were in this plane. And so it's just a special, fantastic story with a fairly happy ending. And so we've waited some time between the incident until now to make the recognition, and that was intentional. And so without further ado, I'd like to present the Distinguished Service Award to our Andy White.
What's that? I'm good, sir.
You good? Then the council is going to come down.
Okay. Sorry, it's calls.
We're trying to stay.
It's not text messages. Yeah, it's.
And then we'll let the council come down.
All righty. That is very exciting, and thank you, Chief, for honoring him and bringing that to our attention tonight. I really appreciate it. Okay, we'll give the clerk a chance to get back up here in a second. Okay, that takes us on to item 4.2, Board, Commission, and Committee Reports. We haven't had any for a while, so I guess we saved them all up for tonight. So that takes us on to item A. The City Economic Development Commission is recommending 2 renewals and 4 new appointments for its fiscal new year under the bylaws effective March 1, 2025. Ms. Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Public. Appreciate a few minutes to present to you the packet presented in front of you regarding 2 existing board members who are renewing. Our chairman has been with us now, will be 12 years, if you do support this renewal. And then the subsequent member will be with us for 7 years, if you support her renewal. So those are presented to you as that particular first motion, I think, by City Clerk. There is a second motion in regards to brand-new board members. So there are 4 of them listed. They have met with us individually as staff. We've talked about the purpose and the initiative based on the bylaws of council. These new board members will serve in an inaugural 1-year term. It's kind of that probationary period. That is how the bylaws are structured, to evaluate if they add value and initiative to serving on behalf of business development, and likewise if they're getting enough enrichment by serving on this board. So with that said, that would be a subsequent motion on behalf of those 4 new board members.
Okay, do we have any, I'll start with the first 2, the renewals. Do we have Mr. Osinski, I'm sorry I probably killed your name, or Ms. Davis here?
No, actually I'm looking in the audience and I don't see any of the 6 with us this evening.
Okay, all righty. So we're going to do 2 subsequent motions as requested. Motion 1 is to move to reappoint 2 members, and motion 2 is for the 4 new members. So we're going to do 2 separate motions. So what would council like to do with this? Councilmember Estes.
I move to appoint Dan Osinski and Mercedes Davis to a 2-year renewal terms.
Okay, we have a motion, and Councilmember Hinton.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to reappoint the first 2 members for their renewals. Any further deliberation from council? Councilmember Herzberg, your mic is on. Did you have a? Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Please vote.
Is it showing on your stuff? There it goes. I have 6 yes, motion carried, and I just need to add that Councilmember Herzberg has joined the dais. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then the second request is to appoint 4 new members to serve on an Economic Development Commission for their first inaugural 1-year term. All 4 of them, Kimberly?
Yes.
Okay, all righty. Do we have any discussion from council? Okay, anyone like to make a motion?
Give me just a minute. I got to write all these names down since we have to.
No, we can do one motion for all 4.
Yeah, but don't we have to read off the names?
They're all on your agenda, under where it says 1-year inaugural term at the bottom, and then the other 2 are on the back. Okay. Would someone? Nobody's going to make a motion? Okay, well, okay.
Move to appoint Carola Rafferty, Ronald Coyle, Joyce Dexter, Moran, and Rosalind Hartlieb to the Economic Development Commission.
For their 1-year term?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Councilmember Duncan.
I second.
Okay, we have our motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote.
Excuse me, 5 yes, 1 no. Councilmember Estes voting no. Motion carried.
Okay, and that takes us on to item 4B, appointment of one new board member as a limited service term to the Fountain Urban Renewal Authority, FURA. Ms. Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Kimberly Bailey, Executive Director for the Fountain Urban Renewal Authority. We are presenting to you tonight one service term limited board member to serve the authority's remaining seated term. So for the authority's bylaws, they are instituted for 5-year increments. Our former service member had resigned on behalf of personal matters, and so the remaining term is 2 years. And we have presented to you, in front of you, a recommendation to appoint Ms. Bieros on behalf of fulfilling that remaining 2-year limited seated term to the Urban Renewal Authority.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Is she here tonight?
She is not. No, she's actually home with the flu. She's one of the many right now.
Okay, well, I thank her for staying home with us.
I
So
did.
Thank you
I
very
did
much.
do that.
Yes. All right, that's one thing we don't need to share. Okay, all righty, so what would council like to do with this? Councilmember Duncan.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Ms. Barreras.
Close enough.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Councilmember Hersberg.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Six yes, motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that takes us on to item 4.2C, reappointment of the Personnel and Grievance Board. Ms. Carneal.
Good evening. The Personnel Grievance Board members and alternate members shall be appointed by the council. Whenever there are no members on the Personnel Board, the terms or newly appointed members shall be 1, 2, or 3 members respectively. Thereafter, as terms expire, appointments shall be made for 3 years. Both regular and alternate members shall be subject to removal from the office for just cause by majority vote by the City Council. On May 22nd, City Council approved an ordinance 1568 that put that board into effect. And Mr. Foster was appointed to a 1-year term in November of 2023, and Ms. Martinez was appointed to a 3-year term in September of 2021. With the change of the clerk's position, those appointments were not followed out on. My bad on that. So both members have expressed interest in continuing to serve on the board, and to meet the staggering terms, staff recommends appointment for a 1-year and a 2-year term, appointing Mr. Foster to a 2-year term and Ms. Shirley Martinez to a 1-year term.
Okay, are either one of them here tonight? They'd like to introduce themselves?
Ms. Martinez is here this evening. I haven't seen Mr. Foster. No, I don't see Mr. Foster.
Did you want to come down and just wave or whatever? Okay, there's, did you have anything to say? You have to come down the mic, and the middle button turns it on.
Just that this is very important to our community, and that us as citizens need to continue to step up for positions like this. And being on the school board, I understand that we need to be able to help out as much as we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for stepping up. Appreciate it. All right, so we have 2 possible motions. Motion 1 would be to kind of flip them around, since Ms. Martinez had the longer term the first time, and that would be Mr. Foster 2 years, and then Ms. Martinez for 1 year, I think is the proposed motion from the board. So what would council like to do with this? Councilmember Estes.
I move to reappoint Mr. Steve Foster for a 2-year term to the Personnel Grievance Board.
Okay, Councilmember Rick.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
6 yes, motion carried.
Okay, and we need a second motion for Ms. Martinez. Councilmember Duncan?
I move to reappoint Ms. Shirley Martinez for a one-year term to the Personnel Grievance Board.
Okay, and Councilmember Rick?
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, alrighty, seeing none, please vote.
Six yes, motion carried.
All right, thank you very much. Hopefully, we won't go another few months and get some people for step up if we have. Do we have any openings in other boards that you know of off the top of your head?
I don't believe there's any active openings on, I don't know if Kimberly's still here to speak. Nate, do you have any additional openings on your EDC currently, or are those full?
There are no more vacant openings.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, at this
not
time, I
on
don't
EDC,
know of any.
But we have parks and planning and.
But we'll
and,
always take applications.
Always take applications so that they're on file when we have an opening. Okay, so if you're interested in being on any of those boards, contact Joni. She can tell you about them, what they do, when they meet, and we can always put an application in ahead of time. That's great, thank you. All righty, we go to item 5, correspondence, comments, and ex officio reports. Mr. Trainer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Really, the only thing I would say is the legislature's in session, and so we're in the thick of it. Spent a lot of time last week dealing with legislative matters that we're trying to make sure that we address on behalf of our community. I'm going to be sending out the link to some of the bills that we're really taking a close look at to the council. So yeah, if you have any questions about any of those or have any thoughts, also encourage people to get on CML's website, Colorado Municipal League's website. They've got a lot of legislation that they follow that ties directly to communities. Some of which doesn't really tie directly to our community, but just for your situation awareness, it's interesting, some of those bills out there. So just wanted to share that. We're in the thick of it and can't count down the days quick enough before it's over.
Evans. Anybody else down the row, anything else? Okay, anybody in the back row? Okay, IT? City Clerk? All right.
Nothing tonight.
We'll start with Councilmember Rick.
Yes, we have a problem in Fountain. We're along some state highways that we don't have control over as far as maintenance goes. 85, 87 and Powers are controlled by the state. Have a lot of potholes, a lot of grass growing, et cetera. Talked to our city engineer, Ben Sheets. He worked with Heather Spainhour, and they found a link that the deputy city manager is putting on the city website so that you can log in and put in a request to have things fixed through CDOT. Get yourself a work order number, and then if it doesn't happen, we can follow up with the state. So please take advantage of that. I know it's a consistent problem, 85, 87 particularly around Walmart, but we're going to try and all work together. I'm going to go out in April myself and put in some work requests myself using that link. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
You don't have to live in the city of Fountain to do that. Anybody can turn in a request about any place on the state highways. And I know even Representative Bradfield last year was turning in requests and trying to work with CDOT, and they were ignoring her too. So we just need to, I think, quantity is what we need to do. Thank you. Councilmember Estes.
I sit on the Fountain Creek Watershed District, finally stepped down as the chair after almost 3 years. I'm still the secretary, but the good news is our Southmore project, we're sitting at about 70% completion. So we're looking good on that, and it's a massive project. So that's good news for our community, and hopefully, we don't know, but we're hoping that it'll help stabilize that road, but it will help with the erosion along that area. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hinton.
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember Hertzberg.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I attended the Purple Heart
luncheon on Saturday. It was really great. Just a big thank you out to those guys. And of course, I attended the monthly FURA meeting. If you want more information on what FURA is up to, they do a lot of great things. You can go to furaco.org. There's a list of projects and a map.
Councilmember Duncan?
First, I'd like to thank our city manager. Scott, as he mentioned, is our main person for CML, and that's the Colorado Municipal League. And he was a trooper there for 2 days, sending us great detailed notes on bills that we are monitoring for our city. And CML also monitors a lot of things. But just want to say thank you for your dedication for those 2 days. I thought I was going to have to leave, but I know you're the main person, but I still wanted to see what was going on. But thank you so much for the notes. They were awesome. Food insecurity is growing as inflation has pushed the cost of food to what some consider to be unattainable prices. Pikes Peak State College, which is right outside our doors, a local higher education institution, is next to the city of Fountain. They have stepped up to make a difference and be a part of the solution. And this has been for about a couple of years, so they're the hidden secret. They have a food pantry, and it's not just open to the students, it's open to the public. I know that we have a food pantry here, and the lines are long, and also they have a bus route. So if you're in need of transportation to get there, you can take our transit there and get right to the college and then come right back home. So they do have a pantry there, and it's open to the public. Our Tamara talked about our Fountain Creek Watershed District, and they had a meeting the other day that I just happened to stumble on, and they were talking about the sedimentation process of the Arkansas River and Fountain Creek, and it was really good. Allie did a presentation at the end, but they talked about the efforts that were being put forward for the Fountain Water Creek to reduce erosion by reducing the channel capacity, and they also talked about the floodplain and vegetation that they were getting rid of, reducing the invasive species with there. So just like you said, it's almost at 70% completion. So if anyone wanted to go over there and look, I would encourage you to do so. They also mentioned, there's an article, it says, there's a river in our creek, how Colorado Springs growth is eroding the Fountain Creek watershed. I would encourage you to read that. It's good reading. It's also tax time. They have the United Way. You can call 211, and they have free tax prep for community members who make less than $67,000 a year. And also, you can, with a reservation, you can get your taxes done right here in Fountain at our library. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Yeah, on the Fountain Facebook page, there is a flyer on there about the taxes. So if you want to know the hours and the contact info, it is on the city Facebook page. I attended Pikes Peak Area Council of Government. The big thing we did that we've been working on for about a year and a half is adopting the 2050 long-range transportation plan. And that includes lots of projects. So basically, if you're not on the list on the long-range transportation plan, you're not going to get a project done unless you have an emergency. So that's a really big deal to get on that list, and we've got some projects on there. And but it doesn't mean they're happening in a year or two, because it's the 2050 long-range transportation plan. And that's how long some of this stuff takes to plan. Yeah, we have a legislative lobbying group with the PPACG, and found out that the state is not going to renew the $2 million into the specialized transit plan that they were given last year. So they're asking right now the transit providers, which is like Fountain Valley Senior Center and Vita, Silver Key, and things like that, to plan on probably a minimum of 10% of a cut to the services that they're offering. So if that's important to you, that might be something that you want to start contacting your state representatives about. Because We can't go back. And $2 million doesn't sound like a lot of money for the whole state, but it all helps. I attended the Old Town Bagel Shop. They had a grand opening. Scott and I went up there and had bagels. They have gluten-free bagels, and they had really good strawberry spread for it. So if you don't eat gluten-free, you have to find a good bagel. So it's hard to find a good one. They're usually hard as a rock, and this one was nice and soft, and I could eat it. So really good. And then Old Town had their annual event, and we had a great attendance at that. Nate, do you have any idea how many people we had there?
I'd say roughly 30 folks.
Okay, about 30, 35 people with an interest in this area, either business owners, people who are interested in the area, and just learned about what's going on down there. And if you're interested in any of the anything going on in the legislation with the state, you go to the Colorado legislature site and you can look up a bill of interest. So if there's a topic that interests you, can look them up by topic, or you can put in your representative or senator's name and find what bills they're running, and just get a lot of information. And it's pretty easy to work with. So that is all that we have there for comments, and so that takes us on to item 6, public to be heard. This is for items that are not on the agenda. Council may not be able to provide an immediate answer, but will direct staff to follow up. Out of respect for the council and others in attendance, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. I only have one card, so if anybody is still here who wants to say something, grab a card and give it to the policeman standing back there, and he will make sure we get it up here. And so the only card I have is from Commissioner Corey Applegate, and, oh, you sat down. Okay, thought maybe you had left there for a second. Okay.
Not yet.
Your seat's still empty.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Mayor, council, staff, citizens of Fountain, it's good seeing you all this evening. So I want to thank you all in your positions, your elected positions. So thank you for stepping up and serving your community. Because I think, as we all know, I mean, I've had 5 years doing this, and there's times where it's like positions like these have their perks, but then it's a pretty thankless job sometimes. So update quick on the county infrastructure. So as we know, the last year's budget towards this year, they put more money towards the infrastructure, fixing roads, paving roads. Drainage was a big issue that came up. We're trying to find out who owns Security Ditch. It's a crazy little situation I got thrown into. So if anybody's got any leads on that, let me know. So focused on that, keeping the roads maintained, keeping everybody safe out there. That rolls into public safety. Recently, we had a press conference with the sheriff. I know Mayor Sharon Thompson was there. They are going to collaborate with ICE. If federal agencies do ask and say, we need names, we need addresses, we need phone numbers, our sheriff's office is going to help and collaborate wherever they can. So it's important we keep our citizens safe. And lastly, water. Water has been a hot topic. Jesus walked on water, I ran on it. I'm on one voting board. I'm on the Pikes Peak Rural Water Authority with Dan, and then I'm a liaison to 4 different water boards here in town. So I know that the county isn't a water provider, but we definitely keep close tabs on that, who has what, making sure our basins, our aquifers aren't getting drained, and making sure we have, when we do these developments, that we have enough water to go around for everybody, and these developers are able to purchase and provide. So on that note, does council or mayor have any questions for me?
Well, thank you for coming down here. Hopefully you'll keep the tradition up that your predecessor had of dropping in on us, frequently.
Yeah.
And you have a lot less drive than he had, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for coming by and keeping us updated. I
No
appreciate
problem.
it.
Yeah,
So-
the joke was he had big shoes, but everybody was telling me, they said, I think you got pretty big feet, Corey, and I was like, I appreciate it, so. Definitely
go.
stay very active, so.
There you go.
Alrighty. Y'all have a good evening, thank you.
Did anybody have any questions for him? No? Okay, thank you. All right, and I do have a question from, I'm sorry, I can't read your last name, Brad?
Yes, my last name is Buffkin.
Oh, okay, all righty, there you go. Please come down to the mic and state your name, and then push the middle button and it'll turn, there you go. There you go. All right,
Hi there.
thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing us to appear today. Again, my name is Brad Buffkin. I'm an attorney here in Colorado. I have a client named Kevin Bristow who owns a residential lot here in Fountain. It's at 1509 Monterey Way. And he and his business partner are attempting to build a residential, just a single residential dwelling on that lot. And one of their goals is to build affordable housing, which is wheelchair accessible. So they've received approval from Regional Building Department, and they submitted their plans to the zoning department here in Fountain in early October. The issue is that the submittal was, while it was submitted in early October, and despite fairly consistent follow-up with the zoning department and others in the city, we've been told basically that the project is stuck in the queue, and that it's, initially we were hearing it was like number 54 in the queue, and more recently we've heard that it's number 52. And the issue that we have there is that at those rates, it seems like it could be years before this is approved. And so we're not here to point the finger at anybody. We know that there are only so much that one person can do. And we've been recently told that a second person has been hired to do this work. But it's just that I've got a client who owns property in the city, and he's kind of hung up indefinitely, as well as his business partner who lives here in the city. And they just don't have any ability to move forward. We thought about taking this issue to the Board of Adjustment, but it's my understanding that there is no Board of Adjustment in Fountain at the moment. And so really the reason we're here today is, again, not to complain or point the finger at anybody. We've had some very friendly discussions with people at the city who've explained to us the situation. And kind of where we're at is my client's got a construction loan that's going to become due. He's got to, that lender expects progress on the property. And so we're really here just to sort of make this issue known to the city as, concerned, my client is a concerned owner of property here, as well as just to make a plea for some kind of action that we might be able to help move this project forward. Again, we've just kind of been told we're stuck in the queue, and we don't have a way to move forward, and it sounds like it could be a very long time before there's some movement. So that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming in tonight, and I'm sure you've been in contact with Mr. Evans, and we are fully aware of the problem and how many things we have in our queue and how long it's taking. We've been working diligently to try to hire staff for over a year, and we're just so thankful we finally have someone here. I'm not going to try to pronounce her name because I'll probably ruin it, right? But we do have a second person on board, and we're really excited about that, and we've been working diligently and trying to come up with different processes. But Todd, did you want to say anything?
No, I think, Mr. Buffkin, you summarized it accurately and very well, and that queue is getting shorter. Tijali Mangle, who we were lucky to get from Texas, is being trained right now, so we hope to move things along quicker as soon as we can get her trained. But at this point, we're just taking things as we've received them, as we've discussed. So Mr. Strider is in contact with Mr. Buffkin as well on the legal side, and we'll continue to logistically move things along as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
Yes,
And so Todd is actually, in his department, is the correct person. I know your client did email me, and when that happens, I just forward it to Todd because that's not my department, and it's not what I do, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
these guys have been very helpful in providing information and sort of explaining the situation to me. And so I know that it's not in their control necessarily. It's just that we find ourselves stuck. And really, in addition to just kind of, it sounds like you're already aware of the sort of issue. But in addition to that, we just kind of wanted to make a plea for if there's some way to move this relatively small, simple project up in front of maybe some of the larger commercial projects that would be more time consuming. I think my client has a second lot that either he has submitted or will soon be submitting. And so just trying to find a way to move forward is all. So thank you.
All right, well, Mr. Evans, you're key there, so
Thank you.
thank you very much for coming in tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
But I got to admit, when you say lawyer, we kind of get a little panicked look up here in our faces, so. All righty, those are the only two cards I have tonight. So that takes us on to item 7, consent agenda. All items listed under consent agenda are considered routine and will be approved with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately at the discretion of council. We have items A, B, and C tonight. What would council like to do? Councilmember Rick.
Move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Councilmember Duncan.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
6 yes, motion carried.
Now, Councilmember Hertzberg, I got to catch up for a second. Because I don't think you were here yet when we talked about the changes to the agenda. We are moving item 9B to become item 8A, and item 8A will become item 8B. Okay? All righty. So that takes us on to item 8, old business. So give me a second to find the right spot. That takes us on to item 8A, also known as item 9B, Resolution 25-007, a resolution establishing water rates. Mr. Blankenship.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here this evening asking you to consider a resolution to establish new water rates. This is a request, this request is a culmination of several years of work, including some specific actions that have occurred within the past year. Just a little less than a year ago in March, Resolution 24-006 was passed establishing the Water Fund Stabilization Plan. The stabilization plan put into motion several actions. One of those actions was to do a water cost of service study and rate design, which was completed in November of last year. The results of the study recommend a 5-year rate plan. The study was presented to the council in a public session in December, and then in January we had a second public presentation and the first public input session. We followed that at our previous most recent council meeting on February 11th with a second public input session. The 5-year rate plan is designed to generate sufficient revenues to offset projected expenses, including inflation, to eliminate the interfund payable loan owed to the electric utility, and to establish a water operations and maintenance reserve equal to no less than 3 months of operational expenses. The proposed rate resolution, if approved, will implement the first 2 years of a 5-year rate plan, with the first year being effective March 1st of this year and the second being effective January 1st of next year. This will align with the city's 2-year budget process. We have just recently started the 2025 budget year, and last fall the council approved a 25-26 budget, and so this proposed implementation will align with that budget. With the completion of each year, as soon as the audited financial data becomes available, utility staff will update the rate model to determine if the new rates are performing as projected and determine if adjustments to the remaining years of the rate plan are needed to meet the financial targets. The results of the first analysis will be presented to the City Council and public in the third quarter of 2026, and recommendation of continued implementation of the rate plan will be incorporated into the 27-28 budget process. In addition to setting water rates, Resolution 25-007 reaffirms that customers located outside the city limits will continue to pay 2 times the applicable rates. Currently, there are 7 commercial and 6 residential customers located outside of the city limits that are paying the 2 times the rate. I recommend that the council approve Resolution 25-007 establishing water rates, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments or questions from anyone on the council? Okay, seeing none, is there any comments or questions from anyone in the audience? We've slowed this down and taken a lot of time to really make sure that everybody understands what we're doing and why, and because nobody wants to do this, right? Nobody likes to raise water rates. I mean, that's just to get, or electric rates or anything, right? Especially right now with what's going on with the price of eggs, right? So, is there anyone online? No. Okay. I don't see anybody in the audience jumping up, so we will bring it back up to the dais. And last time, chance for council, any questions? Okay, otherwise, what would council like to do with this? Councilmember Estes.
Move to approve Resolution 25-007.
Councilmember Hinton.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on 007, and we're going to remember that one, aren't we? All righty. Any further deliberation up here? Seeing none, please vote.
6 yes, motion carried.
Okay, thank you very much. That takes us on to item 8B, second reading of ordinance number 1810, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 1729, increasing water rates to allow for the establishing of new water rates. Mr. Blankenship.
Yes, in light of the action that you just took, this is the second reading of the ordinance to repeal the existing rates. So we need to repeal the existing rates to be concurrent with.
I don't think your mic is on.
Oh, you're right.
You get to
Thank
start all,
you.
you get to start all over
Okay,
again.
I get to start over, okay. In light of your most recent action adopting the resolution or approving the resolution to establish new water rates, this action that is proposed under the second reading of ordinance number 1810 is to repeal the existing water rates, and so that needs to occur concurrent with the establishment of the new water rates.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any questions from anyone up here? Any questions or comments from anyone in the audience? Anyone online? Okay, I'll bring it back up here to the dais. What would council like to do? Councilmember Rick?
Move to approve ordinance 1810 on second reading.
Councilmember Hinton?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
6 yes, motion carried.
Okay. And that takes us on to item 9A, new business, considerations of item removed consent agenda. There were none. We have already taken care of item 9B, and that takes us on to item 9C, Resolution 25-009, a resolution to authorize the city manager to execute the service agreement between the City of Fountain and Asflund Tree Expert LLC for the 2025 annual electric line clearance services and amend the FY 2025 electric fund expense budget for the balance needed to complete the required services. And this is our boroughs.
That's a mouthful, isn't it?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Randy Burrows, electric engineering and planning technician. Among other things, I am responsible for overseeing the administration of the electric utilities operations contracts. It's that time again for the electric utility to begin the annual tree trimming operations to ensure the reliability and safety in the areas of our electric system that are overhead. The utilities department does not have an in-house staff suitable for performing these operations. So historically, we have used contractors for this work. They're specialized in doing their work around high voltage lines, so on and so forth. Due to the retirement of our former tree trimming outfit, we had a very long-standing relationship with him, and it's actually brought us kind of considerable change in our outlook as far as how our tree trimming goes. So we did go through a competitive bid process and received 3 responses. 2 of them came in within, and they're actually the 2 lower of the 3. They came in within 3% of each other, and then the third was upwards of 2/3 higher than the other 2. So kind of an eye-opener there. Ultimately, we determined that Asplund Tree Expert was the lowest responsible bidder for this service agreement. Based on past bids, we expected to see a raise in costs on this. However, the actual bid numbers, well, I should say, and we budgeted accordingly to that expected increase. Unfortunately, the actual bid numbers that came in were even higher than what we budgeted for. The last time the 2 planned areas for this year were trimmed, we paid $248,000 for the services. This time around, the lowest responsible bid is $362,000, which is $62,000 over what we budgeted at $300,000. To complete the work that we need to do this year, we will need to appropriate $62,000 additional dollars from the electric fund. With that said, utilities staff recommends that council approve resolution 25-009, authorizing the city manager to execute the service agreement between the City of Fountain and Asplin Tree Expert LLC for the 2025 electric line clearance services and amend the fiscal year 2025 electric fund budget for the additional expense of $62,000. Thank you all for your time and consideration. If you have any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for him? I know in the future, just for me, I would appreciate it if we could just include all the 3 companies that put the bids in and what their bids were.
Okay.
And the reason I ask that is because there have been, at least once I can remember, that a local fountain business came in slightly higher than the lowest bid, and we actually used our policy to use that company. So that's why I like to just see all of them and see who the companies are.
Okay.
So, but, okay?
Yep.
So, but thank you for doing all that hard work, and I know it's frustrating because the cost of everything just continue to
Absolutely.
go up. Are there any questions from anybody in the audience? Okay, if you could just scoot over, and Ms. Weisenhunt has a question here. Come on down here to the center, please, and state your name for the record.
Connie Weisenhunt, good evening. I just wondered, that's a lot of money for some tree cutting stuff. So did we have like a previous contract and the contract is no longer valid, it's null and void, or we're renewing a contract? And where do you service? Like from, is it the main streets, it's the communities, it's the side streets? Can we talk a little bit about that? I just think that in the time that we're in right now, it's a great thing to hold people accountable and ask where the money's going. Thank you.
And one of the reasons this contract is more expensive than a traditional tree trimming contract is these contractors are required to have specialized training and certifications to work around electrical lines. And a lot of the tree trimmers do not have that certification. And so that's super important because you don't want somebody chopping down, through a line or something, right? So I know that that is one of the reasons it is more expensive. But yeah, if you could just take a seat, we'll get him to answer your question of exactly which part of town we're going to be doing this year.
This year we'll be actually working in the Whitefield area in that overhead portion, and also in Fountain proper. To the question about whether we had a contract up to this point, I had touched on the fact that our previous contractor has retired, and now we've actually been forced into paying closer to the actual market for the specialized work that's done. Not
so
sure.
he was kind of giving us a better deal when we kept using him with the long-term contract.
Yeah, however that worked out.
Okay, Mr. Blankenship?
Yes, they did. We do this on an annual basis, so the last time we did a bid, we did a public bid, and we got other, companies, and I think Asplin previously maybe bid on our stuff, and they were considerably higher. But when our previous provider retired, he no longer is bidding on projects. But he did complete everything that he was required to do under last year's annual contract. So he has met all of his obligations.
And it sounds a little odd when he said that he's doing some in Whitefield, and that is because?
Our service territory extends well beyond the Fountain city limits for electric. In fact, we probably have as many or more customers, electric customers, outside of the city limits than we do inside the city limits. We have approximately, I think, 18,500 electric customers. And like I say, at least half of those, if not a little more, are outside of our city limits.
Okay, Councilmember Estes.
Dan, can you just tell us why it's so important that we keep these trees trimmed, the safety aspects of that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a reliability and safety thing. Any time that the tree limbs come into contact with our electric distribution lines, that has a possibility of starting a fire. It also creates a fault, which then causes a circuit breaker at the substation to open, and everybody's power goes out. So it's not only a safety, but it's a reliability thing. And so that's why it's so critical. And to have a routine program is necessary for us to meet the reliability standards. And we currently received an award from the American Public Power Association that recognizes us as a reliable public power provider. And one of the things that contributes to that is to have regular maintenance programs like this in place.
Thank you. Councilmember Rick and then Councilmember Hinton.
Thank you, Dan. Please correct me, but in other states, they have not done tree trimming, and they have had electric lines break and have massive fires, in particular in California. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. That is a potential consequence of not having an active tree trimming program.
Okay, that's all I had, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I just want to add that, I know the weather's nice today, but typically February is known for its winter weather. And with that comes some ice conditions, and those make those tree limbs a lot heavier. Imagine that falling on the electrical wiring or on somebody else or on an individual. So it's important that those things get done and that we keep up and maintain that. That's just my comment on that, Nate.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions from anyone in the audience? Okay.
Sharon, I have a question.
Oh, Councilmember Duncan?
I just want to ask the question about the cost. Were there other bids taking place that were submitted?
Beyond the three that I discussed? No, there weren't.
And this was the lowest?
Correct.
Councilmember Duncan, yes, we, on all of our bids, when you see the terminology, you'll see the lowest responsible bidder. We're not always taking the absolute lowest bidder, but we're taking the lowest bidder that meets all of the requirements that are necessary to perform the work, and also they meet all of the insurance and bonding requirements and everything else that is necessary to perform public work.
Councilmember Hinton?
Yeah, if this is approved, when does that work start?
Randy?
I believe, we actually have a kickoff meeting scheduled. I believe it'll start within probably the next month because they'd like to get in and get everything done for us as soon as possible.
Okay, thanks.
All right, all good questions. You already had, I'm sorry, you just had one. Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, alrighty, so I'll bring it back up here to the dais, and what would council like to do with resolution 25-009? Councilmember Hinton.
I make a motion to approve resolution 25-009.
Councilmember Estes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation with council? Okay, seeing none, please vote.
6 yes, motion carried.
Okay, we are going to take a 5-minute break, and because we are on to the next part of our meeting, which is 9D, appointing the council seat. We have approximately an hour allowed for that, but we'll take as much time as it needs to get that done, and we want to make sure nobody needs to take a comfort break or a stretch break or anything in the middle. And maybe IT or whoever, if we can see what that humming and that vibration is, that would be great. And if you need a few more minutes in 5, let me know and we'll let you have it. All right, thank you very much.
Let's do it.
I am calling the Fountain City Council meeting for February 25th, 2025 out of recess and back to order. And that takes us on to item 9D, appointing a council seat vacancy for Ward 3. And our city charter is pretty clear on how this is done, and we have followed those steps. Joni, you want to review them just a little bit real quick on the steps that we followed to this point?
Sure. On January 14th, City Council declared the seat vacancy for Ward 3 and set a deadline for petitions to be submitted to the clerk by January 29th. Council was notified of the sufficiency of 3 petitions on February 11th, leaving the 15-day deadline to make an appointment on February 26th, which would be tomorrow, which leaves us here this evening.
Okay, and I'm pretty sure everybody wants to get it done tonight and not come back tomorrow. So that is our goal tonight, right? And first of all, I would like to thank the 3 candidates who put their petitions forward. Just like going on the ballot or putting your name forward for anything, it's very nerve-wracking, and we appreciate you doing that and going through this whole process and being patient with us. And I appreciate you being here tonight. Just like in a regular election, when your name is submitted to go onto a ballot, you come to the city clerk's office and she puts the names in a bowl and she draws out the name of the order and that you will be on the ballot. So that we followed that process tonight. And during the break, the city manager and the city clerk drew the names for the order that the candidates will be presenting tonight. And they came out. Mr. Stanwood will be candidate number 1. Mrs. Geek will be candidate number 2, and Mr. Verhoff will be candidate number 3. And they were asked to present anything they wanted to tell us tonight. We have gone through your applications you submitted, and if it would be easier for you to bring the mic to you, you are more than welcome to do that, or bring a chair there, whatever you feel comfortable doing. But take your time with your statement that you have, and the middle button is the one you need to push. There you go. Thank you very much.
Mayor, council, good evening.
Excuse me just a second. If you could hand those to the city clerk and she will distribute them.
My brother Owen there's going to do my speech for me for the sake of time.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Matthew Stanwood, with 1 T for clarification for the record. So I'm going to turn things over to him, and then I'll come back up for a couple more statements. Owen.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I will. Does everybody have the paper? Okay. Yeah. I'll wait.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So just going from the beginning. His biggest priority is to find alternative funding sources to help fix our road problems in Fountain. Many roads go unsaved, cracked, flooded out. There are other roads that they get ignored and they're dangerous, and people have tragically died on them before anything has been corrected. Funding is a huge problem. With a little bit of elbow grease and some networking, there are things to be done if put in hard work. And then there are the links, couple links below, FHA and NHTSA links. When roads are fixed and are safer for citizens, my other priority would be to work on crime in Fountain while at the same time opening the relationship between those who don't feel they have a great relationship with law enforcement and first responders, when those who are at risk for committing crimes have a more open relationship with law enforcement and don't steer the community from homeless to business owners get treated as equals, crime rates go down, and safety and confidence of the community go up. Community policy walking neighborhoods can take place, set up neighborhood watch, and have meetings with law enforcement. It opens up for the community, for the department having a crisis response team, leading to lesser calls of welfare checks or mental health, or a senior who is confused and needs help. All these things help lower crime rates in Fountain. Some crime rates in Fountain currently are in the poll that is referenced below of 18 responses. 50% say they generally feel safe, 28% say somewhat safe, and 11% say very safe. And then the other question being police visibility, 24% say they're very visible and responsive. The 24% say they're visible but are slow to respond, and 18% say that they are around much, but they are there when you need them. Having grown up with cerebral palsy and a brain bleed have been tough. I have a sister born on my 3rd birthday. She is 20, and in June I will be 23. I have a younger brother who is a senior in high school. He is 18. He has a brain bleed with nystagmus. My youngest sister, who will be 16 in April, is a sophomore in high school. We have all grown up in the same house in Fountain, the same school district. I spent a lot of time getting surgeries for my cerebral palsy at Children's Hospital in Aurora, Colorado. I spent a lot of time in therapy to help me do things others were doing, and I continue physical therapy, but during this journey facing physical and some developmental challenges, I have tried to organize some fundraisers for young adults with disabilities, and when younger fundraisers for kids with cerebral palsy. I had the help of my mother and siblings, as some things are physically challenging, like writing, typing, but when reactions as or why they can do or don't want to help, or when trying to organize a donation drive for a town had a fire, was collecting clothes and then blankets for animals for organization that employed parolees. I got kickback from others as it was not considered politically correct and connected to people with a fugitive background. But just like with the fundraiser, small businesses and people and criminals, I feel that when working and representing a city, you can't make any judgment based on a book's cover. Read a few pages before you come to any conclusions. Diverse groups of people are all around us. The world would be so boring if everyone was the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor Thompson, council again. My name is Matthew Stanwood. I already did that. So I want to go back to the crime thing for a second. A good friend of mine, Mayor Graham, went to DOLA and got her, it's called the Real-Time Crime Center, paid for. I would like to do that here. And if we went out for grants, I think they could literally pay for them for the next 5 years. I also want to thank Commissioner Applegate for being here. It shows the peaceful transfer of power. And that's it. I will stand for any questions.
Thank you. We're not asking questions of candidates tonight. We could be here all evening, so we just decided to have everybody make a statement of what was important to them. So thank you very much. I appreciate you. And again, thank you for turning in your application and stepping up. All right, that takes us to our second candidate, Mrs. Geek.
Good evening,
If
Council.
if you could bend the mic down to you a little bit lower.
Good evening, Council, staff, and public. Thank you for giving me some time to share a little bit about myself. I'm Marcia Geek. I've lived in Fountain for 28 years. I love my community, and I'd like to offer the City of Fountain my service. I ran for the Ward 3 seat 3 years ago, so I understand the commitment and responsibilities of the position. I'm excited about the opportunities to learn new things. As an educator, I have had to retrain many times, taking course after course to stay current with educational practices, policies, and procedures and programs. So I know I have the wherewithal to be retrained as a reputable, knowledgeable city council member. 53 years ago, I married a firefighter and the love of my life, Sam. Consequently, responsible public safety has and always will be of critical importance to me and my family. Fountain is looking at building and staffing Fire Station number 4 in Fountain. Decisions regarding the funding and staffing of another station are going to require research, planning, and responsible implementation. Having a knowledgeable, passionate voice in those decisions is important. The most pressing issue facing Fountain right now is the encroachment of development around our city and how that impacts safety, infrastructure, and planning. After having watched the past 8 months of council meetings, staff reports, and public to be heard, it seems clear that the City of Fountain is not growing at the rate that was predicted several years ago, but there are more people in and around Fountain because of the residential developmental growth around our community. It's hard to create a budget to prepare for that impact when Fountain isn't collecting tax revenue from a good portion of the neighboring developments. As a council member, I would work to create the mindset that Fountain's reality might be one of minimal growth with increasing traffic that impacts our city's funding. After listening to all of the department heads give annual reports for creating the 2025 budget, it's clear that Fountain has a very dedicated, skilled, and hardworking group of professionals who are committed to using the city's limited funds in responsible ways. The goal from each of them was clear. How can they use our tax dollars to get the most out of what we have to provide the best for our community? They're leasing vehicles. They're using outside consultants to help with some of our planning department needs. They're looking at alternative methods of staffing emergency service departments to ensure that Fountain is a safe city. They're recruiting needed businesses, and they're balancing the demands of developers against the needs for compliance and mutual aid. Fountain City department heads and employees are a diverse group, but they have a job to do, and that job is the unifying force. The sitting council is diverse, but their job is to serve the best interests of the community, and that's paramount. The goal triumphs the individual differences. I was raised with the belief that people are more alike than different. When you serve on a committee together, there's usually an end target or two. The target or targets are the unifying force in a group. Diversity dissipates as a result. To answer the question that was posed, I don't think I can give one specific example of one time when I worked with a diverse group of people to accomplish a goal. I've been on committees, panels, and councils for 50 years, all in the southeast part of El Paso County. I have served on committees as a parent, taxpayer, teacher, planning commission member, HOA member, and a member of a church parish. I have been an officer on many of those committees. The tasks have been varied, from a team to investigate and present the community's needs for a second high school to how to get 90 schools to cooperate and hold the annual Pikes Peak Battle of the Books. I'm an educator, and daily I'm working with a diverse group of adults to accomplish goals with the students socially, academically, and physically. The students I have taught the last 40 years have been extremely diverse. Because of that, each year I've had to develop personal and professional goals to address the needs of the students. Every year those needs are different, and every year my personal and professional goals change to address those needs and the needs of the school and district. With the goal of serving students, parents, and schools, unification and inclusion are what matters. I mentor teachers in an alternative licensure program, the Pikes Peak Board of Cooperative Educational Services, in the 2-year alternative licensure program. For the first time in 15 years, I have been a mentor. I have the pleasure of mentoring in one of the Fountain Elementary schools this year. The aspiring teachers I help in their respective schools have very different populations, but the goal is clear. It's my job to help to create excellent teachers in every situation. That goal makes differences disappear. I also served on the City of Fountain Planning Commission for 18 months to 2 years. It was a diverse group of people who served at the time, but the expectations were clear. The job was to read, research, and evaluate the needs of the city of Fountain and to vote for what would benefit our community. I see this position on Fountain City Council as very much the same. Each item brought forth to the council should be evaluated based on the city's vision and mission statements, the 4 strategic priorities for 2025 to 27, and the needs of the city. I can give you one very specific time when the Fountain Planning Commission received a request for clarification about farm animals and how many chickens, ducks, geese, cows, horses, goats, pigs, etc. could be raised on an acre of ground in Fountain. The request was clear. A rancher wanted to know how many of each animal could be raised per acre in Fountain. The Planning Commission listened to all aspects of raising farm animals, from noise levels to the amount of fecal material each one of them produces. After a lengthy and informative meeting, Fountain City Planning worked together to formulate an agenda item to forward to City Council. For some of us present tonight, it was one of those times in our lives that we'll never forget, at least I won't. And I'm sure it was as interesting and informative for City Council as it had been for the Planning Commission. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much, and thank you also for stepping up and bringing back that excellent discussion we had for a very long time. Sam, I couldn't resist. Sam, you remember. All right, that takes us to Mr. Verhoff. Please come down and state your name for the record, and if you have anything, please give it to the city clerk. Okay, thank you.
Of course, Mayor. There. Sure that's. Nope. Mayor, councils, thank you again for having me, as well as staff and members of the public. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here also to express the interest on the vacancy on City Council. I really would like to contribute to this community in a meaningful way. As a native of Colorado, the state means a lot to me. Like all of you, I had a lot of goals and ideas of how I want to make our community better and the quality of life better for our residents. I have a pretty diverse background as both a veteran as well as a business owner and also vice chair of the Colorado Young Republicans. I got to work with a pretty diverse board to work with unique individuals to try to help out and solve problems. I worked in different positions, from working with Senator Gardner's U.S. Senate campaign to working as a legislative aide at the state capitol, working on rural economic development, water issues, eminent domain, to name a few, as well as the wildfire issues that we had to face here in the state to help put in some protections to stop the wildfires. With that, and being a small business owner, my goal is to help grow the economic development for folks in this community, specifically veterans. I think we have a large opportunity to seek federal grants for the veterans and disabled veterans we have in our community, and focus in that federal money to help those veterans start businesses. As well as I see our roads as a unique challenge in our community with the road budget that we have, and finding interesting ways or finding unique ways to somehow increase the budget for the roads so we can have better roads and infrastructure for our community. I'll, for the most part, keep my comments for the most part brief, but thank you, council, for everything, and thanks for the opportunity to speak.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to bring it back up here to the dais, the council, and open it up for a discussion. If any of the council members wish to bring up anything to discuss, please open your mic and let me know. Councilmember Rick.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I spoke with the city attorney. I need to disclose that I was on the Planning Commission with Mrs. Geek prior to coming on council. I have no other business or personal relationships with Mrs. Geek, but the city attorney felt I needed to disclose that. He also said I did not need to recuse myself from this vote. So just want to make sure everyone in the public is aware of that.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hertzberg.
I also served on commission with Marcia.
Okay, thank you. I know Mrs. Geek, I've been to her house because I'm served on council with her husband, and then I know Mr. Verhoff because he's active in the Republicans as well I am too. So I think we all have a lot of crossover, and I think we can all judge each person on their merits on what they presented with their applications and what they stated tonight. So I'm comfortable with that if everybody else is. So, all righty. Okay, Councilmember Hinton, yep.
I don't know any of them. Well, I just met him in passing.
Okay, it's all
I
his,
just
it's
wanted
all
to
your
make sure.
decision. He wants the sole decision, is that it?
You don't get around much, do you? No.
Okay, all right, does anybody else have any comments that they'd like to make up here? Okay, if not, what would council like to do with this item? Don't let it die for lack of a motion, or you have to come back tomorrow night. Councilmember Rick.
Move to appoint Marcia Geek to fill the vacant council seat for Ward 3.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Councilmember Hertzberg.
Second.
Okay, the motion is to appoint Marcia Geek to, I'm in shock this is going so fast. I have to take a second. I figured this would take a little bit longer. We have a motion to appoint Marcia Geek to the Ward 3 council position seat. Do we have any further deliberation from any council members? Okay, seeing none, please vote.
6 yes, motion carried.
Okay, congratulations, Mrs. Geek. And first of all, I want to say very, very thank you to Sean and Matthew. I really appreciate you putting it out there. This is a 10-month appointment to just till the next election when the seat is open again. So please feel free to put your name out there again and for the same process. And the swearing in for Ms. Geek will be at the next council meeting in 2 weeks. And I'm sure staff will be reaching out to you. I'd love to get together with you tomorrow. I don't know what your work schedule is, but I'd like to talk to you afterwards if you have a couple minutes. And congratulations, and thank you again to everybody for what you did, and I really appreciate it. And I lost my agenda in all this. Hang on, got handed 2 minutes. Do we have an executive session? No executive. It was on the consent agenda. Okay. All right. Okay, no executive session. We are adjourned. Thank you.